You are standing right in the middle of a massive server farm. The ambient noise is deafening. Just the relentless hum of thousands of industrial cooling fans working overtime. You look around and you realize that a single momentary power outage in this building could instantly vaporize weeks of progress and millions of dollars. We often have this romanticized idea that training a modern generative AI model is purely a software problem, right? We picture brilliant researchers sitting in beanbag chairs, endlessly tweaking Python code and adjusting neural network architectures on their laptops. But the reality is actually completely different. Modern AI is almost entirely about managing massive, hyper networked cluster infrastructure. It is a rigorous, incredibly high stakes game of hardcore DevOps. And when I say high stakes, I mean the financial barrier to entry right now is absolutely staggering $100 million. That is the baseline estimated cost required just to train a frontier generative AI model today. Think about that for a second. We aren't talking about your typical SaaS software overhead here. This is about acquiring and orchestrating high performance hardware at a monumental scale. In this environment, hardware is your primary yielding asset. And when you're operating at this scale, every single millisecond of idle compute time has a massive, immediate financial footprint. And look, this isn't just wild industry speculation. We have direct, on the record confirmation from the people actually building these behemoths. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, stated point blank the cost of training GPT-4 was more than $100 million. This quote alone should completely reframe how you view the market. It proves that to play in the foundational generative AI arena, immense capital allocation is an absolute prerequisite. The bottleneck in AI progression isn't just algorithmic ingenuity anymore. Actually, scratch that. It's not the algorithms at all. It's capital and your ability to execute flawless infrastructure orchestration. I actually remember a few years ago when I used to do this the hard way. Like a lot of people, the prevailing thought in AI was that hyper optimizing your algorithm design was the ultimate bottleneck. I'd watch teams spend weeks meticulously tweaking loss functions on single machines, desperately trying to make their model scale. But the entire industry hit a massive wall. When those distributed training runs started generating astronomical, budget destroying cloud computing bills, the whole paradigm shifted. I had this stark realization, and it swept through the industry, that infrastructure optimization is the true path to those 100 times returns. If your massive hardware clusters aren't running at peak efficiency, your compute costs become entirely unsustainable. So, how do we actually fix this? Well, in this video, we are going to break it all down. We'll cover the compute math, the hardware limit, and finally, the distributed setup. Let's dive right into pillar number one, compute math and what we call the flops bottleneck. In the world of AI infrastructure, you have to look at flops, which stands for floating point operations, as a highly constrained currency. This currency strictly dictates your entire compute budget. A flop is essentially a single arithmetic calculation, like a basic addition or a multiplication, that happens as data moves through the deep layers of a neural network. Now, when you start scaling up generative AI, it's not like you're just adding a few more background calculations. The flop count explodes exponentially, and managing that budget is the difference between a successful run and burning millions in venture capital. To really visualize this capacity, take a look at these parameter counts. Parameters are basically the internal settings, the actual values that a model learns during its training phase. Look at the data here. Google's Palm sits at 540 billion parameters. Meta's Llama 3 is at 405 billion, and GPT-3 is at 175 billion. Obviously, a model with more parameters has a vastly greater capacity to learn incredibly complex patterns from internet-scale data. But here is the brutal catch. Every single one of those hundreds of billions of parameters requires continuous arithmetic calculations during training. So these massive parameter counts, they drastically and violently drive up the total flop count you have to process. Let's put some hard mathematical reality to this, just so we fully grasp the scale. Google's Palm 2 model required 10 to the 24th power flops to train, Now, NVIDIA's H100 GPU is an absolute powerhouse. It is the core yielding asset of the AI boom, delivering up to 60 teraflops per second. But even with that incredible state of the art speed, if you naively tried to train Palm 2 on a single H100, it would take 5.5 years of non stop computing. In the tech world, 5 years is a lifetime. You'd be obsolete before you even finished. So, to compress that training time into a single manageable day, you need over 2000 H100 GPUs running in absolute perfect synchronization. But here's the multi-million-dollar question. What happens when a model's parameters simply exceed the physical memory limits of your hardware? A single GPU, no matter how expensive, has a fixed hard limit of VARM. When a model hits 400 billion parameters, it physically cannot fit onto one chip. It's like trying to fit an ocean into a teacup. That brings us to pillar number 2, breaking the hardware limit through distributed training. Since a single machine utterly fails at this scale, the only viable solution is distributed training, networking thousands of your hardware assets together. There are two fundamental approaches here. First is data parallelism. This is where a full copy of the model is placed on every single GPU. The massive training data set is split up into smaller chunks, and each GPU processes a different chunk at the exact same time. It's absolutely fantastic for raw speed, but data parallelism completely falls apart if the model itself is too big to fit into the memory of a single GPU. When you hit that memory wall, engineers are forced to use the second approach, model parallelism, which involves actually taking a surgical knife and dividing the model itself into distinct pieces. The most intuitive form of model parallelism is called pipeline parallelism. I want you to think of this as an inner layer assembly line running across massive server racks. Instead of putting the whole model on one chip, the model's layers are split sequentially across multiple devices. Device 1 computes the first few layers, then forwards its activations, its work, to device 2. Device 2 computes the middle layers, passes it to device 3, and so on. Then, during the backward pass, which is when the model actually learns and updates its weights, the gradients flow back through the pipeline in reverse order. Looking at this pipeline visually, device 1 takes layers 1 through 4, device 2 handles 5 through 8, and device 3 handles 9 through 12. But the absolute biggest engineering challenge here is avoiding what we call the bubble. The bubble is those periods where device 3 is just sitting idle, burning electricity, waiting for device 1 to finish its chunk of work. Remember, idle compute time destroys your financial returns. So to maximize compute efficiency and protect your yield, micro batches of data must be incredibly carefully scheduled so that every single device is constantly churning, keeping that idle bubble time to an absolute minimum. But wait, what if a model is so incredibly massive that even a single layer is too large to fit in one GPU's memory? Pipeline parallelism won't save you there. For that, we need an intra-layer fix known as tensor parallelism. Instead of splitting entire layers across GPUs, the massive mathematical operations within a single layer are sliced up. One colossal matrix multiplication is divided into workable bite-sized chunks, processed simultaneously across different chips, and then all those outputs are mathematically combined for the next step. To picture this, imagine you're cooking a massive dish in a giant pot that requires constant heavy stirring. Instead of one chef exhausting themselves doing it all, you have 4 chefs, GPU 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each chef is stirring a specific quadrant of that pot at the exact same time. They process their specific matrix chunks, whether by row or by column, and then hyperfast network switches instantly synchronize their results before the model moves on to the next layer. But before we move on to the final pillar, we need to address where 90% of people completely break their models. Data parallelism scales throughput, and model parallelism solves your memory limits. But when you are building a 400 billion parameter model training on 15 trillion tokens of data, neither of those methods works on its own. So how is it mathematically possible to scale both without the network communication bottleneck just entirely destroying your cluster's efficiency? The answer is hybrid parallelism, which is sometimes called 3D parallelism. You essentially have to chain all these methods together into one glorious architecture. You might group 8 GPUs together using tensor parallelism just to handle a single massive layer. Then you use pipeline parallelism to string several of those 8 GPU groups together to hold the full depth of the entire model. And finally, you use data parallelism to replicate that massive mega cluster multiple times over to chew through your massive dataset. Chaining them together is literally the only way to train these trillion parameter behemoths without hitting memory walls. Now, let's look at the third and final pillar, treating infrastructure as an asset. To make this incredibly complex distributed setup financially viable, you need aggressive optimization at the memory layer. If you want your hardware assets to hit that ideal 30% yield efficiency target, you have to optimize. Here are 3 concrete techniques engineers use. First is gradient checkpointing. This is a fascinating trade-off where certain intermediate memory states are intentionally thrown in the trash and just recomputed later. It trades a little bit of extra compute time to drastically reduce the total memory footprint. Second is mixed precision training. By dynamically switching your calculations from highly precise 32-bit math to less precise 16-bit math for most operations, your speed is doubled and your memory usage is halved practically instantly. Finally, we have ZERO, which stands for Zero Redundancy Optimizer, and FSDP, or Fully Sharded Data Parallelism. These frameworks act
like a cleanup crew. They effectively slice up the redundant optimizer states that usually clutter up your GPUs, distributing them evenly across the cluster, so no single chip is hoarding valuable memory.
So if you take nothing else away from this, remember this. Training GenAI isn't just a software problem, it's a massive, high-stakes infrastructure orchestration game. But here is the crazy part. Getting the model trained is really only half the battle. Once this incredible $100 million asset is fully trained, an entirely new set of extreme economics emerges. Now that the model is trained, how do we actually serve it to millions of concurrent users without latency completely destroying our margins? Well, we cover that exact system architecture in our next video, so you definitely don't want to miss that. By the way, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe now if you haven't already.